Hi there, I'm Janette Lane, a craft designer at CraftStash, and in today's video I wanted to share a super simple die cutting technique that you can apply to all of your paper crafts, your projects, scrapbooking, layouts, journaling. It's a really easy technique and you don't need a specific die to do it, so you can do it with any die. Apply this technique to any die, but I'm going to be working with the Apple Blossom, brand new Apple Blossom 12 Months of Flowers collection, and this is the April collection, which is daisies. So every month Apple Blossom, which is an exclusive brand to CraftStash, releases a monthly flower collection, and there's a coordinating stamp set. So there's a die set, a stamp set, as well as an embossing folder and a stencil. So lots to pick from for you to make, personalized creations every single month. Such a cute collection. So I'm really excited to show you this tip, this die cutting trick. So let's jump into the tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a repeating strip of die cuts from one single die. So this is from one single pass, one single die in my die cutting machine, and it just makes a really nice design element to work with and incorporate into your paper crafts. So as you can see, I used it here in this card to create this kind of like a floral banner across the side of my card, and I really like how that turned out. And also on this card, so these daisies here are not separated, they are on a repeating strip. And it was all made from a die, just one single die, and you can apply this technique to any die set that you might have. So let me set my cards aside, and I'm going to be working with the Apple Blossom April Daisy die set. So I'm going to grab the daisy out from here. And there's two daisies to pick from, so there's one that's kind of a little bit more open, kind of like a side angle kind of daisy, and then the flat front kind of daisy, and then we have coordinating embossing, so it can emboss your daisy as well as die cut, and there's a stem and leaves, but all I want for this is to just use my plain daisy outline. Now, the main thing to remember with this die cutting technique is that if you're going to be using a wafer thin die, you're going to want to use paper that's not so thick or heavy in weight. So I'm going to be using 100 GSM, or you can use copy paper, white copy paper as well. We're going to take our paper, a sheet of paper, and we're going to do an accordion fold. And again, because we're going to fold multiple layers of this paper and also die cut, you don't want to use thick paper because it's not going to cut all the way through. So again, use anything below 100 GSM and you should be all set with that. So let me grab a sheet of this card and let me set this aside. And then I'm going to grab my handy dandy paper trimmer, and I'm going to grab my pencil just because I want to trim this properly. And basically what I'm going to do is just trim this paper so that I'm not wasting any. I don't want to waste my paper, so I'm just going to trim it just a little bit wider than my actual die. And I think my die is about 2 inches wide. So for this is probably 2.5. And I'm just going to trim that and save this paper for another project. So let me set my paper trimmer aside. And then I'm going to grab my scoreboard. This is the Hunky Dory scoreboard, so it's double-sided. I love that because it has centimeters on one side and the inches on the other, so super helpful for crafters like myself who aren't familiar with the metric system, although it's really growing on me. I'm really loving the metric system, which is kind of, I don't know if that's like weird or not, but I'm loving the metric system. Now, the main thing that you need to remember with this technique is that you want to make your folds. So we're going to do an accordion fold. So I'm going to score this piece of paper. You want to make your folds less wide than your die. So my die measures roughly about, at its widest point, measures about 6 centimeters. So I want to make sure that my creases are less than that. And so I'm going to score this at every 5 centimeters because I need to make sure that the die is not cutting on the sides of my paper. So you want to make sure it's smaller than the width of your die, sorry. So score this at every 5 centimeters. And also you don't need a scoreboard for this. You can just kind of eyeball it and create your own accordion fold. It's really easy. And then I'm just gonna fold this back and forth. There we go. And this last piece is a little bit smaller than, you know, it's like not perfectly even, but it's not a big deal because you can just trim that off at the end. Once you have your strip of paper scored and folded, and again, you don't need a scoreboard, you just want to make sure that your die is wider than your folded little strip of paper. So as you can see here, the blade on each side is going to cut right through, and that's what's going to give us that repeating strip pattern. So now I can run this through my machine. Now, because you are cutting through so many layers of paper, you might want to run this like through your machine 2 or 3 times just to make sure that you're cutting maybe at a shim, because it is a lot of layers to cut through just a wafer thin die. But if you have any steel roll dies, then you don't have to worry about really what kind of thickness of paper you use, because you can definitely cut through multiple layers with a steel roll die. But this is just a wafer thin die, so I'm just going to run it back and forth a few times and make sure that I'm getting a cut all the way through my layers. Okay, so when I unfold this, I get my repeating strip of daisies. And again, you can apply this to any die that you have. All you have to do is remember to make sure that your folds are less wide than the width of your die. So super easy technique, and then you can use this strip to, you know, even create a scrapbook layout. It's so big, so you can definitely do a 12 by 12 scrapbook layout with this, or like in my case, I ended up using this strip as a nice little side design element on my card, and also here with this card. So again, just a super easy trick to apply to your paper crafts. Something else that you can do with your dies, which is really helpful, because, you know, sometimes dies can be on the pricey side, and you want to make sure that you're able to do a lot with one die. So hopefully you can add that to your crafty toolbox of ideas. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope that you were inspired to try this die cutting trick, this tip, on your own paper crafts. Everything that I used today is available at craftstash.co.uk, where you'll find heaps and heaps of inspiration and how-tos. I'm Janette Lane. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.